The matriarch of the princeling in the capital frequently resorts to monetary inducements to dismiss the myriad of enchanting companions surrounding her son. This spectacle incites a profound envy within me. In a bid to secure her favor, I pursued him, fabricating an illusion of our romantic involvement. True to form, she fell for my ruse, instructing me to keep my distance from her son while generously compensating me. After a period of estrangement from the princeling, his mother expressed her satisfaction and settled the final payment. However, just as I reached for the bank card, a slender hand clasped over mine. The princeling, with his piercing gaze and a hint of disdain, remarked coolly, "So, this is why you suddenly ceased your pursuit." Leaning closer, he whispered menacingly in my ear, "Are you daring to toy with me? Have you grown weary of life?" I bore witness to the princeling, Shenjinjo's mother, as she wielded a bank card to dismiss several beautiful young women. She would invariably utter, "Take this 5 million and distance yourself from my son." Yet, the young women remained unmoved, for in the current economic climate, 5 million scarcely suffices to purchase a modest residence in the capital. Moreover, being with the princeling promises access to funds far exceeding that amount. Nevertheless, his mother continued, "Should you persist in your pursuit of my son, I will ensure you vanish from the capital." I froze, my hand poised to serve tea. The young women, too, were taken aback. I pondered whether her threats hinted at something far more sinister. Yet they simply wept, their tears like rain on blossoming pear trees, clutching tightly to the 5 million bank card, their expressions resolute as they declared, "If I must leave, then so be it." With that, they typically dialed the princeling, stating, "I shall no longer trouble you, pursue whomever you wish." 2. I am employed at a tea house that exudes an air of sophistication. The proprietor compensates me 250 yuan for each hour of labor. I work 3 times a week, dedicating 3 hours each time. Initially, I felt quite accomplished, earning over 2,000 yuan weekly, which amounted to more than 8,000 yuan monthly. This was merely a part-time endeavor, and the tasks were rather effortless. However, upon observing the vibrant figure before me, along with the oblivious demeanor of the young master's mother, who seemed to possess more wealth than sense, I found myself lost in contemplation. 3. Upon returning to school, I began to download the schedule for the finance department. I then applied a light touch of makeup and purchased a sheet of pink stationery, priced at 9 yuan. I penned a love letter to the young master, professing my instant infatuation and an overwhelming affection for him. To enrich my letter with emotion, I even copied several love poems. When I arrived at their classroom, the lecture had yet to commence, yet the room was nearly filled. It took me some time to locate the young master in the expansive classroom. He was seated at the back by the window, accompanied by a few of his roommates, all engrossed in their games, their faces devoid of expression and serious in demeanor. I quietly admired their good looks, for their dormitory was renowned for its attractive inhabitants, often regarded as one of the most desirable for social connections, though all overtures had been met with rejection. The young master himself was strikingly handsome, akin to a sculpture, with a visage that was truly a feast for the eyes, capable of delivering an immediate impact on one's soul. 4. I hurriedly took a seat beside him. He glanced up momentarily from his engrossing activities, his gaze sharp, as if I had trespassed upon his territory. My heart raced. He was known for his irritable temperament, though it was said he never struck women. I timidly inquired, "Classmate, is anyone sitting here?" He ignored me, returning to his game. I promptly removed my outer coat to reveal my dress underneath, tossing my hair slightly in an attempt to waft my fragrance in his direction. 5. I introduced myself softly into his ear. He remained as cold as ice. I noticed others nearby were secretly observing us, their expressions rife with disdain and the anticipation of a spectacle. When class began, he ceased his gaming to pay attention. I discreetly slid my love letter towards him, tucking it within the pages of his book. He cast me a fleeting glance, dismissing me. In a hushed tone, I confessed, "Shen, I like you very much." He raised an eyebrow, looked at me with contempt, and subtly shifted away. 6. For a period thereafter, I became somewhat obsessive, tailing him wherever he went. When he attended morning classes, I would procure breakfast for him, accompanying him to class. If he returned to the dormitory after lectures, I would follow suit. On several occasions, I encountered his housekeeper, who came to collect his laundry. I boldly asked her, "Annie, are you here for Zhao's laundry? If you prefer, I could handle it from now on, and you needn't come anymore." She disregarded me. I remarked to the young master, "Your family truly engages in charity, even employing the deaf and mute." His roommates took a liking to me, as I frequently brought them snacks and delicacies from the second cafeteria. including the coveted braised lion's head, a popular dish that required a competitive spirit to acquire. However, this group of privileged young men were reluctant to demean themselves by venturing out to obtain food. 7. Thus, I would enter their dormitory as if it were my own realm. I even took it upon myself to tidy up. After the housekeeper departed with the laundry, the young master began to work on his computer, and I sat quietly beside him, observing him for a while. Indeed, he hardly acknowledged my presence. I often found myself sitting beside him, silently watching. Thankfully, he was quite a sight to behold. The thought that his mother might one day offer me 5 million to part with him only heightened my spirits. Occasionally, I would ask, "Aren't you ever bored? I could sing a song for you if you'd like." He would coldly respond, "No." "Then perhaps I could tell you a story?" "No." "What about sharing some details about myself? Surely, you should know something about your admirer." I would then, undeterred by his rejections, elaborate on my virtues. "I believe we are quite compatible. You stand at 190 centimeters, while I am 160 centimeters. Together, we would be the epitome of the cutest height difference. Moreover, I am said to be the belle of our department, and wherever we go, we would undoubtedly attract envious glances. By the way, you remain silent. While I am quite talkative, imagine how harmonious we would be together." At times, I would recount my life's shining moments. When I was young, my writing was praised by my teacher. Can you guess why? He paused his mouse clicking but soon resumed his task, ignoring me entirely. I would then chuckle. "Because I wrote well. Ha ha ha." He would make a face of disdain, as if to say it was not amusing in the least. You know, when teachers ask us to introduce ourselves and discuss our talents, do you know what I would say? He would display a look of enduring patience. I would say my hair is particularly long. Ha ha ha. We once had a classmate who claimed his leg hair was exceptionally long. Ha ha. By the way, do your legs have a lot of hair? I've heard that men with excessive leg hair often go bald. Would you like me to check? At this point, he would respond with a single word, "Get lost." 8. I would also inquire, "What do you want to eat? I can go get it for you." Only when I asked about his food preferences would he deign to pay me attention. In these moments, he would contemplate seriously before ordering. Our school cafeteria truly offers delectable meals. However, due to their exquisite taste, we, a group of lazy college students, would begrudgingly rise to fetch our meals during peak hours. One afternoon, I returned to their dormitory with a large bag of food. The dormitory supervisor glanced at me, shaking her head disapprovingly. On one occasion, I overheard her muttering, "The world is indeed declining. The audacity of young girls these days. TSK. Upon entering, the young master cast a glance my way and instructed, "Do not fetch food for them again." His roommates immediately protested, exclaiming that such favoritism was unacceptable. He told them to leave. We sat together at his table for a meal. I felt as though I was making progress in my pursuit of him. The dynamics between us felt remarkably enchanting. After a month of interaction, one might say he is easy to pursue, yet he possesses an air of selective deafness and blindness, only hearing what he wishes to hear. Conversely, while it is said he is difficult to pursue, it is rumored that he does not allow anyone to sit beside him during classes. Yet, I could sit next to him daily, persistently bothering him. I could also openly claim my place in his dormitory, as I did now, expressing my desire to eat while watching a show, and he would hand me his computer. Sometimes, when he encountered particularly cringeworthy plot twists, he would cover his eyes and exclaim to his roommates, "I'm going blind." Nowadays, the ridiculousness of these plots is beyond belief. I would look at him disdainfully, remarking, "You've clearly never seen the world." I had a daily ritual of napping. After our meal, I would return to my dormitory. Before departing, one of his roommates winked at me, quietly informing me that Shenjiao's birthday was approaching. I realized I must orchestrate a grand confession of my feelings. My current approach of simmering in warm water was failing to elicit any reaction from his mother. Moreover, he seemed to regard me merely as free labor. Although spending time with him was quite entertaining, ultimately it was my own enjoyment that mattered. I often spoke as if performing a solo comedy, amusing not only others but also myself. 9. Nevertheless, I still lacked clarity on how to confess my feelings. I ventured online to seek advice on how to confess my feelings at a minimal cost. Ultimately, I resolved to arrange a heart shape with candles on the school playground the day before his birthday, with our names inscribed in the center. As foolish as it may appear, I was determined. His roommate served as my informant, dragging him to the scene. He glanced at me, then at the cluster of candles, and finally at the onlooking classmates before turning away without a second thought. "Stay. There's a surprise." I called out, my embarrassment palpable. Fortunately, the janitor arrived as my savior, dousing my candles with a fire extinguisher while grumbling about being given extra work. I helped with the cleanup, murmuring apologies. I felt that Shun Jaijo was rather inconsiderate, refusing to even come over, especially after I had prepared so many meals for him. However, I did gain some notoriety on social media as this incident had been captured and posted online. The following day, an unfamiliar number contacted me. Upon answering, I learned it was Shun's mother's secretary, who expressed her desire to meet with me. I immediately acquiesced, and we reconvened in that same tea house. She furrowed her brow at me and accused, "So, you are the one who has been harassing my son? Auntie, that is hardly a fair characterization. We are genuinely in love," I proclaimed with righteous fervor. "No one can separate us." She dismissed me with disdain, stating, "Here is 5 million. Leave my son." I suppressed my elation and feigned tears. "We are truly in love. He even mentioned marrying me." Her expression darkened, and she scoffed, "Marriage? Just look at yourself. Do you think you are worthy of my son? Auntie, you mustn't say such things. He is fond of me, which surely indicates I possess some merit." She hesitated, then proposed, "If you agree to break up with him, I will give you another 5 million. Otherwise." With a pitiful demeanor, I replied, "It's not that I would leave him for money, but a love without parental blessing cannot endure. Therefore, shall we draft a contract, specifying that this is a gift?" She regarded me with palpable disdain. "What my Shin family gives is never reclaimed. Now, break up with my son, and remove yourself from my sight." "Very well," I exclaimed. I dialed Shin Jaijo's number, which I had only acquired for the convenience of delivering meals. Our WeChat conversation was dismal, filled with my one-sided messages of jokes and serialized horror tales, to which he would respond with the occasional emoji. Yet at mealtime, he would regain his verbal faculties to order food. After 2 rings, he finally answered. "I want to eat 3 delicacies noodles for lunch," he stated, his voice still sweetly disarming. If I had such a son, I would shield him from the external evils. However, the 3 delicacies noodles were located in the 4th cafeteria, situated in another campus, requiring a 15-minute bike ride, including crossing a traffic light and enduring a queue, as the noodles there were indeed delectable. Yet, after the embarrassment he had caused me, he dared to make such an outrageous request. What a scoundrel! I cried, "Eat, eat, eat. All you think about is food. I will never bother you again. We're finished." With that, I hung up and deleted him from WeChat before hastily leaving. I promptly went to the bank, eager to transfer the funds to my account, but suddenly I hit a mental block. I had forgotten to ask for the password. Could this be a scam? Just as I pondered this, the secretary texted me the password. How cunning! After receiving 5 million, I resigned from my part-time job and dedicated myself to studying. I had long aspired to study abroad, but financial constraints had held me back. Now that I had the means, I began preparing. My roommate was puzzled and asked, "Aren't you pursuing that unattainable beauty from the finance department? Why are you cooped up in the dorm studying?" I couldn't win him over. "I've given up," I replied with a smile. Yet, after my resignation, Shun Jaijo began to appear more frequently around me. Whenever we crossed paths, I pretended not to see him and would quickly slip away. His roommate approached me, stating that Shin was too embarrassed to apologize but didn't harbor any animosity towards me. He encouraged me to persist, assuring me that I could ultimately become their sister-in-law. Each member of their dorm claimed to be the eldest brother. Yet only Shun Jaijo refrained from contention, for he was the true leader, and all followed his lead. Feeling disheartened, I said, "Forget it. A forcibly cultivated fruit is never sweet. I shall cease to disturb him." His roommate left with a look of consternation. I thought that was the end of the matter. But 2 days later, he attended my class and sat beside me. I immediately felt anxious, fearing that spies from his mother were watching, believing I had breached our agreement. He cleared his throat and awkwardly said, "I apologize for that day. I simply did not want to be the center of attention." He actually apologized to me. I quickly offered my own apology. I caused a scene and should be the one apologizing for any inconvenience. His eyes widened slightly. "If you acknowledge your fault, why have you been ignoring me, making it seem as if I were at fault?" I stifled my annoyance, preventing myself from uttering a harsh retort. I turned away, choosing not to respond. It seemed he was naturally not a man of many words. With my indifference, he could only sit in silence beside me. I realized this was not a sustainable situation, so I spoke up. "What are you doing? Our major's course won't benefit you in any way." He glanced at the marriage law on the board and replied, "Perhaps it will come in handy someday." As class ended, coinciding with lunchtime, he asked, "Shall we go eat together?" I gazed at him, words failing me. "Actually, I no longer like you. You must understand." He paused momentarily. Embarrassed, I added, "I'm sorry." His expression turned ashen, and without a word, he turned and walked away. I was terrified. For a fleeting moment, I feared he might strangle me. No wonder he was said to be difficult to deal with. This was truly a case of wealth and danger entwined. I thought, once I returned from studying abroad and earned a substantial income, I would repay his mother. After all, this group of capitalists had drained the lifeblood of people like me. So, a bit of deception on my part could be seen as a Robin Hood act. This time, Shinjaizhou truly ignored me. At school, there were no chance encounters, and his roommates ceased to approach me for discussions. I sometimes found it quite miraculous. Thankfully, his mother had intervened in a timely manner. Otherwise, if he were so easily pursued, capturing his heart would only lead to greater heartache for him. Once we crossed paths in the stairwell, and it was exceedingly awkward, as I inadvertently made eye contact with him, making it impossible to pretend I hadn't seen him. He left with an expression as cold as ice, igniting a sense of guilt within me. However, upon reflection, considering his numerous past girlfriends, I was nothing more than a fleeting thought in his life. At most a mere laborer. Why should I worry about his feelings? 2 months later, Shinjaizhou's mother sought me out once again. We met in the same tea house, where she appeared somewhat more amiable this time and remarked, "You have kept your word." She then slid a bank card towards me. I found that my joy was somewhat diminished compared to the first occasion. Truthfully, I didn't particularly need the money, but one mustn't refuse a gift. As I reached for the card, it was suddenly restrained by another hand, not Shin's mother. However, behind me, the suddenly emerging figure of Shinjaizhou appeared. He regarded me with his characteristic icy demeanor. My mother felt a twinge of panic. Yet, he did not spare her a glance. He merely addressed me, saying, "Huh? I wondered why you suddenly ceased pursuing me. It turns out you were simply after my mother's money." Instantly, my mother betrayed me. "Son, do not be deceived by this woman. She is only after your money. When I last gave her money, she was positively elated, as if she were awaiting my next generous offering. She continued to stoke the flames. She used to work at this tea house. Every time I sent your brother those women, you had no idea how enviously she eyed them. I believe she was deliberately trying to entice your brother, and upon failing, she sought to deceive you instead." Brother? The implications were overwhelming. I needed a moment to compose myself. Yet at that moment, Shinjaizhou leaned close and whispered in my ear, "The last person who toyed with me has long since become fertilizer. Yinanjia, are you tired of living?" I never received the final payment, for Shinjaizhou had dragged me away. Before leaving, he instructed his mother, "Do not concern yourself with my affairs." That bank card lay abandoned on the table, forlorn. As he pulled me downstairs, I attempted to wrench my hand from his grasp but failed. Instead, he shoved me into his car. Startled, I queried, "You're not planning to silence me, are you?" He drove at breakneck speed, leaving me no choice but to remain silent. As we headed toward the school, I felt a semblance of relief. However, he halted the car in front of a villa and forcibly dragged me out. His expression was cold and furious. I felt a wave of regret, sensing he might actually harm me. So, upon exiting the vehicle, I immediately crouched down and clutched his leg, pleading, "Shinjaizhou, I haven't done anything. I'll return every penny your mother gave me. Please let me go. I promise to disappear from your sight forever." His impatience grew as he effortlessly lifted me from the ground and thrust me inside. I clung desperately to the iron railing by the door, refusing to enter. He wrestled with me, determined to pry my hands free. "What do you want from me?" I exclaimed, a mix of fear and anger coursing through me. "I've served you for so long. How can you be so heartless? You dare to mention the past? You think you can toy with me, Yinanjia? Do you have the audacity to play with me? What do you intend to do?" I insisted. "I will not step inside. If you kill me, at least I'll leave some evidence behind." He sneered, exerted force on my wrists, and I was compelled to relinquish my grip. Then, he dragged me into the house and, to my astonishment, proceeded to bind me with rope. I never imagined that my momentary greed would lead to my first experience of abduction. And the one who had kidnapped me was a well-known scion. Bound to the sofa, I faced him as he sat opposite, his countenance dark, seemingly contemplating how to dismember me. My pleas for mercy shifted to furious outbursts, yet none of my efforts could soften his expression. After an afternoon of staring each other down, exhaustion overtook me, and I dozed off on the sofa. Upon awakening, I found myself in urgent need of the restroom. He remained seated, lost in thought. How long do you intend to keep me bound? I need to use the restroom, I stated. He glanced at me, unfazed. You are a criminal now. Do you dare make demands? If I'm a criminal, then you've certainly reaped the benefits. Haven to you? I've been laboring to prepare your meals daily, and I even have to serve your roommate. Besides, I've already said I'd return your money. This money, I truly have no fortune to enjoy. Recalling his mother's mention of a brother, I suddenly realized I had undoubtedly pursued the wrong person. Observing Shun Jiazhou, I noted that apart from my persistent presence, not even a mosquito lingered near him, starkly contrasting with the debonair playboy reputation he was rumored to possess. I had undoubtedly entangled myself with the wrong individual. If it were his brother, I was certain things would not have escalated to this point. Thus, unable to restrain myself, I exclaimed, I now realize I pursued the wrong person. Had I known, I would have sought out your brother instead. Would it suffice for me to apologize to you? If you're still unsatisfied, I could continue cooking for you for an entire semester. Mentioning his brother only deepened his scowl. So, it is true. As my mother said, you pursued me solely for money, intending to chase after Shin Ian instead? I involuntarily flinched. Yet, his expression suddenly shifted, as if his mood had improved considerably. He even untied the ropes binding me. I found myself baffled by his unpredictable nature. The daylight had faded into darkness by the time I emerged from the restroom. I asked him, may I leave? What would you like to eat tomorrow? I'll prepare your meals as a form of atonement for the money your mother provided me. What she gave you is none of my concern. He replied with a smile. It was the first time I had witnessed him smile. I had always believed him to be expressionless. His smile was striking, albeit cold. He then stated, I accept your confession. From now on, you shall be my girlfriend. How delightful, is it not? More shocking than delightful, I thought. He placed a hand on my shoulder and whispered in my ear, I will make you regret ever crossing my path. I could not suppress a shiver. Am I allowed to refuse? What do you think? Being confined here or being my girlfriend? Choose one. A wise person does not suffer unnecessary losses. Besides, with his striking looks, the definition of loss was certainly relative. Thus, I replied, very well, I shall choose to be your girlfriend. Yet, I underestimated the depths of Shun Jiazhou's shamelessness. Upon our return to school, he brazenly paraded me around. The admiration of others was palpable. Furthermore, his demands escalated significantly. Whenever I had no classes, he would summon me without delay. Initially, I was disinterested. Since we had openly severed any pretense, why should I continue to serve him? I was no fool. Therefore, I ignored him and focused on my studies in the library. However, my brief period of contentment was short-lived, as he intercepted me in the library. He bore no anger, merely watching me with an unsettling intensity. I scrunched my nose in response. I need to study for exams. Although we are now in a relationship, we should not interfere with each other's lives. He nodded, of course. As he spoke, he opened a box and presented me with a gift, saying, we are now a couple. This is for you. It was a bracelet, quite aesthetically pleasing. Before I could decline, he seized my hand and fastened it onto my wrist with a decisive click. I gazed at it in confusion, realizing it had a combination lock. Panic surged within me as I discovered I could not remove it. Yet I maintained my composure and queried, what kind of overly ostentatious bracelet is this? He draped his arm over my shoulder, forcibly leading me away, and remarked, there are even more ostentatious things. We dined out, a peculiar experience. Although it appeared appealing, it paled in comparison to the cafeteria's offerings, and I found it a waste of time to leave campus. Thus, while in the car, I resumed my study of English vocabulary. When he finally returned me to the dormitory, he warned, when I call for you, you must come immediately, or you shall face the consequences. I rolled my eyes in response. I remained resentful over his coercion to choose between confinement and being his girlfriend, especially considering he had kidnapped me for half a day. I felt he was no longer a good person, nor the aloof, handsome figure deserving of my attention. The following day, he messaged me, requesting that I prepare his meal. I chose to ignore him. I ventured to the cafeteria for a meal, subsequently heading to the library to study. As I settled into my seat, my bracelet erupted with a cacophony of noise, nearly propelling me from my chair. The bracelet proclaimed, I am Yinanja. I am Yinanja. Ha ha ha. This phrase resounded repeatedly. The gazes of those around me were imbued with incredulity, as if I were a lunatic. I yearned to remove the bracelet or find some switch to silence it, yet it proved impossible to detach, and I could not locate any mechanism. In a state of panic, I fled the library, drawing the attention of onlookers who seemed to murmur, "When did our school acquire another madman?" Filled with indignation, I dialed Shinjaijo's number. "You despicable creature," I exclaimed. He replied leisurely, "My dear girlfriend, please fetch me some food." At long last, the bracelet ceased its clamorous outburst. After procuring my meal, I ventured to the boys' dormitory, contemplating that I ought to suggest to the school a prohibition on girls entering the boys' dorms. This way, I could avoid seeking out Shinjaijo. Upon entering his dorm, his roommates teasingly referred to me as sister-in-law. I responded with a nonchalant "oh." I tossed the food onto his table, seething. "Do you have any idea how embarrassed I just was? How can you be so cruel? Knowing how many people are laughing at me right now." He flashed a feigned smile, with dimples adorning his cheeks, which only served to infuriate me further. "It's mutual," he retorted. After delivering the meal, my temper flared. "Can I leave now, you young master?" "Not at all." His roommates curiously observed our exchange, their eyes seemingly questioning when I might rise up against my oppressor. In a fit of frustration, I hurled my backpack onto his table and commenced my studies. From that moment onward, it appeared he had discovered the key to tormenting me. Whenever I dared to not respond to his messages or refrain from seeking him out, the bracelet would wail anew. We were akin to a couple entrenched in a tumultuous marriage, yearning for one another's demise yet bound to coexist. Aware of my impending TOEFL examination, he demanded the 5 million his mother had given me back. That day, we had a fierce argument. I proclaimed, "Didn't you and your mother declare that the gifts from the Shin family would never be retracted? Do you have no shame? I have invested so much. It is only right that I receive some benefits." He countered, "You've acquired a bit of money, and now you're floating away. You are my girlfriend. Yet your actions are hardly befitting of that role. What gives you the right to study abroad? If you intend to leave me without the money, I would give you not just 5 million, but 50 million. Bah! Who would covet your filthy money?" To be honest, this statement was uttered in a fit of rage, as since our union, he had generously loaded my meal card with funds and even bestowed upon me an additional card for my use. Although I had little need to spend, it did not deter me from accepting it. Every week, I would treat my roommates to extravagant meals, broadening my horizons. I considered it my compensation for emotional distress. "If you don't value it, then return it. You are not permitted to use my family's money for studying abroad. Shinjaijo, I truly look down upon you. Release this bracelet, for I wish to break up." Break up? Nonsense. Unless I were to perish. In that moment, I felt as though we were not merely unmarried, but rather bound in a semblance of matrimony. It was utterly terrifying. Nevertheless, we were still university students. During lunch, we engaged in another heated argument over what to eat, overshadowing our prior dispute. He expressed a desire for spicy chicken from the first cafeteria, while I insisted on having 3-flavor noodles from the 4th cafeteria. He lamented the distance to the 4th cafeteria, claiming he was too lazy to walk. I declared I would go alone. He had transitioned from a state of semi-paralysis to accompanying me daily for meals. My time was invaluable, particularly as I awaited the funds that would confirm my opportunity to study abroad. Typically, on the way to the cafeteria, I would listen to English audio, and during meals, I would watch American dramas while dining. After eating, I would stroll by the lake, still listening to English, before returning to my dorm to rest. However, when Shinjaijo was with me, he forbade me from using my phone or wearing headphones, even if we weren't conversing, claiming it was impolite. As a young master, he would not tolerate any disrespect. When it came to our dining arrangements, I suggested, let us each eat separately, avoiding any compromises. Dream on. Ultimately, he dragged me to order a portion of spicy chicken, which we then took to the 4th cafeteria to enjoy our noodles. My suggestion to the school was swiftly adopted. Girls were henceforth barred from entering the boys' dormitories. Following this announcement, Shinjaijo proposed, "Let us move out and cohabit." I regarded him with a gaze reserved for the mentally unstable, asserting, I refuse to engage in premarital relations. He scoffed at my response. Yet, he disregarded my objections and forcibly arranged for my dormitory withdrawal. This incident led to a fierce argument with the dormitory supervisor, as I believed the school's policy on dormitory withdrawal was deeply flawed, allowing anyone to arbitrarily evict another. However, residing in Shinjaijo's villa offered certain advantages, such as an independent bathroom, eliminating the need to bathe in a communal washroom, which was quite convenient. I inquired of Shinjaijo, "Did you also bathe in the communal washroom at school?" Indeed, he raised an eyebrow and asked, "Are you interested in using the washroom? You could join me in my room for a shared bathing experience," recreating the atmosphere of the communal bath. How absurd. Just before the winter break of our junior year, he mentioned that everyone had organized a trip together, referring to his roommates and a few friends. Each of them brought along their girlfriends. I was reluctant to attend, yet he adamantly refused to accept my refusal. The more I resisted, the more he insisted on going against my wishes. The time spent arguing with him was an egregious waste of my life. We traveled to his family's resort nestled in the mountains. With the snowfall blanketing the surroundings in white, the air in the mountains felt distinctly different from that of the city. There were ski resorts and racetracks, with many indulging in skiing. He asked what I wished to do, and I expressed enthusiasm for skiing. We thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. That evening, we savored a barbecue meal beneath a pale moonlight, which hung desolately in the sky. Couples gradually dispersed, and he took my hand, inquiring whether I wanted to soak in a hot spring. I hesitated, asking, "Will it be cold?" "Not at all." We ascended the mountain path together. As he explained that the hot spring was situated elsewhere and required some walking. While one could typically take a cable car, the nighttime scenery offered a unique charm. As we trod upon the snow, it crunched beneath our feet, and the world momentarily fell silent. He walked ahead, holding my hand as I stepped into the footprints he left behind. I found it amusing that we had progressed to this point, akin to two individuals teetering on the brink of insanity. Shunjaizhou. Yes. Shunjaizhou. Yes. Shunjaizhou. Yes. Shunjaizhou. Yes. Why are you so easy to pursue? I couldn't help but laugh. You are far too easy to chase. How can they still dare to call you a lofty flower? As I spoke, I abruptly halted my steps. It was so glaringly obvious. He had never been the notorious playboy everyone claimed him to be. The notion of him being a lofty flower was entirely different from that of a superficial flirt. Initially, I had only seen him walking with his mother on campus, where he affectionately called her Madam Shen. I had assumed she was the one orchestrating his romantic entanglements. He halted, gazing at me with a look of curiosity. His features, illuminated by the moonlight, appeared exceptionally gentle. His eyes, reflecting the serene waters, held my gaze. Then, beneath the vast expanse of moonlight, he kissed me. We had shared kisses before, however, each time he pressed his lips against mine, I could not help but envision myself as a slab of dead pork, which inevitably made me chuckle. When he inquired about my laughter, I replied, "I imagine myself as a piece of dead pork, and now you are kissing a slab of dead meat." In response, he kissed me even more fiercely. I teased him, "Are you hungry? Should I order some barbecued pork belly for you?" His expression darkened as he warned me that I would eventually find myself begging for mercy. Now, as he kissed me, I felt a delightful intoxication wash over me. Indeed, the ambience of a kiss is paramount. The moonlight was exquisite, making the kiss even more enchanting. We continued along the mountain path, and I felt my cheeks flush. I asked him, "Are there wolves in these mountains?" "Yes, so you must stay close to me," he replied. "If you were to be killed by a wolf while saving me, I would mourn you for 3 years in respect." He shot back, "If I were to die saving you and you dared to find someone new, I would haunt you. Love is about respect and blessings. The road ahead for you is still long. How can someone who sells themselves for money dare to lecture me on love?" The previously pleasant atmosphere evaporated. I remarked, "You cling to the past. I truly don't understand the point of it. At least arguing gives us leverage." In the hot spring, aside from the attendants, we were alone. I asked him, "Is there someone guarding this place year-round?" "Of course. Then this pool must have been enjoyed by them. If I had such a job, I would come here daily for the luxury." He pointed to the ceiling. "There are cameras." Instantly, I felt much more at ease. After changing, I found him already immersed in the pool, a platter of red wine and cake floating nearby. What a delightful indulgence. I took a sip of the wine. It was exquisite, sweet, and exceptionally smooth. I couldn't resist drinking more. He asked, "Is it possible for you not to study abroad?" I felt quite sober, believing my tolerance was commendable. "This wine seems unremarkable," I scoffed, casting him a disdainful glance. "If it weren't for the need to earn money for studying abroad, would I be here with you?" I refrained from uttering the word threat, as the current atmosphere was too fragile for quarrels. I simply said, "What do you know? You only know how to boss me around." I sighed melodramatically. He pulled me close, embracing me. In the past, I would have had to struggle to earn such a sincere embrace from him, but now I felt slightly dizzy and leaned against him comfortably. "Aren't you still studying for your master's and doctorate in the country?" "But I want to experience life outside. I want to see how others live." "And if you leave, what becomes of me?" You're not my child needing milk. I can go wherever I please. I heard him snicker coldly. I turned to him, pinching his cheek in discontent. Don't be so sarcastic, or you'll regret it. If you keep sneering, I'll hit you. His eyes sparkled in the misty water. I caressed his features. He was undeniably handsome. Then we kissed again, leaving me increasingly dazed. After changing back, I still felt rather lightheaded. This hot spring can't be toxic, can it? It's making my head feel so heavy. After drinking so much, you're not acting like a drunkard. It's all due to the quality of the wine, he replied, taking my hand to lead me back to the room. Looking up at the moon, I marveled at its magnificent size. The air was crisp, yet not overly cold. Noticing my hesitation, he also gazed at the moon. I confessed, boyfriend, I actually quite like you. Watching the moon with you brings me joy. I feel the same. Could you carry me back? I'm finding it hard to walk. He hoisted me onto his back, retracing the path we had taken. Surrounding us were sparse trees, and the snow crunched beneath our feet. We walked in silence, yet the memory of that path, the temperature, the snow, and the moon would linger in my mind for many years to come, as well as the figure of Xin Zhaozhou. He escorted me back to my room, which turned out to be a spacious suite. I sat on the bed and politely said, "Thank you, you can go back now. I can manage from here." "There are no vacant rooms," he implied, seating himself beside me. "Well, it seems there's no other choice," I pondered aloud. "Let us place a pillow between us. You mustn't cross that line." He chuckled softly, leading me to brush my teeth and wash my face. The room was warm, and as I donned my pajamas and listened to the sound of water, I felt a profound peace within. Soon, I climbed into bed and drifted off to sleep. When I awoke, it was to the sensation of his kiss. He mumbled, "Yinanjia, why didn't you wait for me and just fall asleep?" As he began to undress me, I held his hand down, my heart racing. No. Why not? I struggled to articulate a reason. Was there really a need for one? I'm a member of a certain faith that prohibits premarital relations. Do I believe that? I raised my hand before him. All right, then you must free me from this. He complied readily, illuminating his phone and deftly releasing the screaming bracelet from my wrist. The following morning, I thought to myself how wonderful it was. I was finally free. That accursed bracelet had been removed at last. I lifted my hand to inspect it. How was it still there? I rubbed my eyes, yet it remained. He entered from outside. "Are you awake? You shouldn't have drunk so much. It's already noon. Why is it still on?" How would I know? As I descended the stairs, I chased after him playfully. What a trickster he was. In the second semester of my junior year, I was exceedingly busy. However, Xin Zhaozhou was even busier, interning at his family's company. Sometimes he would work on projects and be gone for several days. Our relationship had never been better. We seldom argued. As before, we would discuss where to eat whenever we had the chance. Yet aside from dining, we had little time for leisure. At times, we would both be in the study, he working and I studying. He never suggested I go abroad for further education. Sometimes I doubted whether he even knew what I was doing, much like I had no concept of his work. Occasionally, upon his return from a business trip, I would catch a whiff of a foreign scent on him, making him seem like a stranger. When he held video conferences or took calls, I felt as though I did not know him at all. That was another side of him. Each time I witnessed this, a sense of fear would creep in. Yet I could not voice these feelings or let them show. Moreover, as time passed, his life became increasingly filled with his work, his family, and myriad responsibilities, while my world revolved solely around my studies and career. Aside from our shared university experience, I could hardly fathom what we could discuss. His work was too enigmatic for me to inquire about, while any probing into my studies would annoy me, as I would have to explain everything from the beginning. During the summer of my junior year, I found myself with more free time, yet he became even busier. I am aware that he once toiled for over 30 hours straight. I dared not utter a word to him during those times, for he exuded an air of seriousness, a palpable aura that seemed to ward off any intruders. Yet, he undeniably drifts further away from me, no longer the half-paralyzed man who awaited my return with a meal. Time sometimes seems to fly. It feels as though just yesterday I was at school, watching the apricot trees swaying with their golden leaves, lost in the splendor of autumn. And today I am besieged by the oppressive heat. Throughout much of my senior year, I found myself with ample free time. Aside from attending school and dining with classmates for farewell meals, I spent the majority of my time in the villa, waiting for him. This is truly an astonishing circumstance. However, I believe that in romantic relationships, women often find themselves sinking deeper, their affections intensifying. At times, I feel akin to a stone waiting for a husband, conjuring images of a day when Shin Jae-jo returns to find I have turned into a mere boulder, a smile gracing my lips while tears stream down my cheeks. He would then realize that in his pursuit of work, he has neglected me, leading him to despair, ultimately causing him to bleed and perish. At times, I drift through the villa like a specter, reminiscing about the time we spent together, lamenting my failure to treat him better, and recognizing that opportunities for that have become scarce. The nature of our relationship, indeed, feels akin to a marriage that is slowly fading away, a thought that fills me with awe. Nevertheless, I have immersed myself in numerous books and films, enriching my understanding of the world. Literature and cinema have allowed me to delve deeper, meticulously analyzing the peculiarities of our relationship. Overall, I feel that my horizons have broadened significantly. When he was present in the villa, our conversations were scant, with our interactions primarily physical. His obsession with my body far surpassed any concern for my soul, a dynamic that I found intoxicating. Embracing him, sharing kisses, and engaging in tender moments made me feel an intimate closeness. This connection alleviated the loneliness that engulfed me in his absence. However, after each passionate encounter, as his warmth dissipated from my skin, a more intense wave of sorrow would wash over me. I struggled to articulate that feeling, but it can be summed up in a single truth. Being in love is not inherently beneficial. If two individuals are deeply in love, they might squander their time engaging in foolish antics, neglecting personal growth. If they are separated, their thoughts are consumed by longing for one another. And if love fades, they must grapple with endless heartache. During the period leading up to my study abroad, Shin Jae-jo was frequently absent from Beijing due to work commitments. I pondered whether he had been unfaithful. I could easily envision myself in his position, understanding completely how he might stray, as the pressures of work and the challenges of a long-distance relationship could easily tempt him to fall for a colleague or a younger intern. I gazed at the spaces we once shared, the living room, the garden, and sighed wistfully. I felt like the ethereal figure from a romance novel, compelled to pursue my studies abroad while leaving room for the protagonist. The white moonlight might one day regret its choices. Yet, in that moment, how could I forsake a potentially bright future for the uncertain whims of another's heart? People grow at different rates, their starting points vary immensely. Amidst such vast disparities, how much can true love endure? Like fragile glass, it might be wiser to relinquish it early. His study contained a Bible, upon which I inscribed a message: I am leaving. After a moment's reflection, I added, I truly care for you. Forgetting me is acceptable, for I too shall forget you. I then deleted his contact information, aware that otherwise I would undoubtedly regret it and seek him out. Yet even now, I find myself at a loss for words to share with him. I cannot approach him with a naive query, are you bored? Shall I sing a song for you? He has matured. He is an adult now. How could I utter such childish words? Studying abroad is my dream. In that unfamiliar, contrasting city, I long to embark on a new chapter of life. Even the prospect of renting an apartment and strolling down the streets fills me with romantic notions. I quickly adapted to this new existence. My roommate, a medical student, was seldom around, only returning late at night. In the quiet hours, I would occasionally hear her weeping from her room. During those moments, I felt grateful for having erased Shin Jae-jo's contact details, for I would have been tempted to call him in the stillness of the night. After all, he was my only connection. My parents perished in a car accident when I was in middle school, and later, I lived with my grandmother until her passing during my high school years. Other relatives were not worth maintaining contact with. After 2 months, I could no longer endure it. Each evening, the tantalizing aroma of home-cooked meals wafted up from the apartment below. Even the scent of stir-fried peppers made my mouth water. It struck me as inconsiderate that they could cook so late without sharing a morsel with their neighbors. I gathered some fruit, allowing the delightful scent to guide me as I knocked on their door. It was essential to introduce myself to the new neighbors. To my astonishment, when the door opened, it was Shin Jae-jo. Seeing him, I realized he was my home. I yearned for his scent, his warmth, his embrace, his voice, and the sound of his breathing. I could not fathom why I had left him, just as I could not understand why he had suddenly matured and grown so much. As I stood there, tears welling in my eyes, gazing at him, my ex, Shin Jae-jo, callously presented a large plate of tantalizing sweet and sour ribs to a dog. The dog devoured it with delight. Just yesterday, I had felt sympathy for it, seeing it as a stray, sharing in its plight. Yet today, it feasted on a dish I had longed for. Shinjaijo looked at me and blandly inquired, "Excuse me, what is it you need?" I was taken aback, realizing how harsh he had become. However, considering the delightful aroma in the air, he surely could not have intended to feed all the food to the dog. I offered him the fruit, my voice trembling as I said, "I came to introduce myself to the new neighbor." "I do not eat food from strangers," he replied. I found myself at a loss for words. I clung to him tightly. Even if he struggled to free himself, I would not let go. We wrestled for some time until someone suggested calling the police to help him. Only then did I reluctantly release him, tears streaming down my face. "Yi Nanjia, you come here to study, and your idea of a good time is to run to someone's door in the middle of the night, throwing yourself at them? You have no idea how much I miss you. My life has been miserable without you." I poured out my woes, forgetting entirely about my initial intention to ask for food. The professors teach so quickly, I find it incredibly challenging. I have to read and write so much every day. I have no friends, and I think of you constantly. I want to call you, but I assume you have moved on. If I reached out, you would surely mock me, considering I was the one who left. "Why are you telling me all this?" he said, his face taut. "I'm not anyone to you." I looked at him in shock. "Aren't you the one who wanted to reconcile? Otherwise, why would you be cooking downstairs, luring me in? Do you think I'm a dog to be toyed with?" He replied, his expression darkening. "You want to reconcile one moment, and the next you want to break up? You come when you please and leave when you want." I gazed at him, sorrowfully stating, "A breakup is permissible, but please share some of the meals you've prepared. I long for the taste of home-cooked dishes, and I cannot bear to be deprived of both sustenance and companionship." Eventually, he relented and allowed me entry. The stray dog was banished. His abode was remarkably clean and orderly, in stark contrast to the cluttered space I resided in. I felt a profound appreciation for wealth, as it manifested itself in every corner of his home. "When did you learn to cook?" I inquired after devouring a hearty meal. "What brings you here?" I came to witness how wretchedly some individuals, who left me, are faring. I had regained my composure, and the delightful aroma of the food had completely dispelled the initial sadness that had enveloped me. I proudly proclaimed, "You shall be disappointed. Although I have encountered numerous challenges, none shall conquer my spirit." He inhaled deeply and implored, "Come back with me. Let us marry at once." What meaning does solitude hold for you while studying here? If one's heart feels lonely, it will remain so, regardless of the surroundings. Furthermore, living together feels akin to marriage, while I find that existence both solitary and romantic. I wish not to relive it. That evening, I did not return upstairs. Shinjaijo remarked that I had feasted upon his culinary creations and demanded recompense. After our passionate encounter, the previous loneliness had vanished, for upon awakening, he still held me tightly, unlike before when he seemed preoccupied with the rigors of a presidential campaign, disappearing each time I awoke. Shinjaijo remained here for 5 days before flying back home. He declared that if he did not return soon, his brother would presume he could do as he pleased. On the day of his departure, I clung to his leg, crying out in despair, "You must come back to see me soon, or I shall perish from hunger." Following our reconciliation, I felt a lightness in my heart, and life appeared full of promise. I dedicated myself to my studies, eager to complete assignments and read the necessary books, so that when he returned, I could bask in his presence. Even if we merely gazed at one another in silence, it sufficed. I found a certain romance in wandering through a foreign land. When one harbors sweet anticipations for the future, that romantic feeling is as delightful as honey. Shinjaijo visited me each month, a day I affectionately termed Visitation Day. His culinary skills were exceptional, not merely due to frequent cooking but because he could replicate any dish he watched in instructional videos. One day, he said, "Come here, let me teach you, so you can cook for yourself in my absence." What is there to learn? I remained unmoved, responding, "I would not cook, for my hands are destined for more significant endeavors." He shot me a disdainful glance, muttering, "Divine arrogance." I preferred fast food and soda over cooking. However, I relished watching him prepare meals. As he cooked, I would roll up his sleeves and tie his apron, admiring his silhouette from the doorway. We had never shared such a domestic atmosphere before. Initially, we would walk to the school cafeteria for meals, and upon returning home, it felt less like work or study and more like lounging in bed. Now, we could even stroll through supermarkets together. In a modest 40-square-meter apartment, I felt more at home than in a sprawling villa, which brought tears to my eyes as I sensed I had not been granted a life of luxury. Throughout my years in graduate school, we lived in this manner. Upon learning that I had applied for a doctorate, Shun Zaizhou, caressing my neck, warned Yinanjia, should I perish from overwork on the road, if you dare to seek another, I shall haunt you as a vengeful spirit. I embraced him, laughing heartily despite the ticklish sensation on my neck. I recounted how I had envisioned myself as a stone waiting for my beloved during my time in the villa, a smile gracing my lips even as tears flowed. He replied, "Did you not study diligently every day? Each time I returned, you remained unmoved."
How could that be?
I protested. I was always waiting for your embrace, rather than contemplating a breakup. I feared you might develop feelings for someone else, for if I were in your position, I would surely fall for another. He scoffed. With such sentiments, an outsider might think I had repeatedly suggested breaking up or had been unfaithful. Yet, the most irresponsible one here is you. When I began my doctoral studies, we obtained our marriage certificate. Upon receiving the certificate, I inquired if your mother disapproves of me, claiming you must divorce or face being cast out of your home and have your credit card revoked, losing your career. What would you do? Would you return to her or stay with me? He casually replied while driving, I would leap from the rooftop, informing my mother that this is my sacrifice for love. I instantly envisioned him making such a dramatic gesture for me and found it rather romantic. Before you take the plunge, you must declare, farewell, Yinanjia, my beloved. He shuddered at the thought, displaying a face of disbelief. I pressed further. Does your mother have any objections? I mean regarding our marriage. Does she live with you or with me? She must learn to let go. If she cannot, it matters not. For I will tell her to tend to her precious son, while I need not her concern. Speaking of which, I have yet to meet this younger brother of yours. It seems he is the reason for our fateful connection. He glanced at me, but remained silent. I sensed that his relationship with his brother was likely strained, as the eldest in a two-child household often receives less attention. This left me somewhat apprehensive about future family planning. To expedite my graduation and return home, I immersed myself in my studies, leading a fulfilling yet hectic life until he visited again. He was taken aback, exclaiming, Yinanjia, how have you gained so much weight? I was equally startled, retorting, I haven't gained weight. We have only been married a short time, and you already find me unappealing? I have yet to comment on your scruffy appearance. This matter sparked a heated debate on our way back. He insisted he was merely stating facts while I accused him of personal attacks. I accused him of nitpicking, and I had no intention of mentioning his unkempt beard. Winter had set in, and upon arriving home, I quickly shed my coat to examine myself in the mirror. To my surprise, I had indeed put on a bit of weight. I pinched my flesh and remarked, I must have indulged in too much junk food. You have no idea how taxing my studies are each day. He scrutinized my waist and asked, You aren't pregnant, are you? I hurried to check, and lo and behold, I was. We sat on the sofa in silence, both feeling the weight of the moment. After a while, he suggested, perhaps you should take a break from your studies?
Why?
Take a break, return home, and I will care for you. Why not you halt your work instead? Half a month later, he actually quit his job. My classmates were astonished to learn that I had a partner accompanying me. Typically, it is the female spouse accompanying the male, and a male partner is often perceived as inept, living off the earnings of his wife. They often sought to dine with us, curious to see this man living off a woman. After Shin Zaizhou prepared meals for several dozen people twice, he told me, if you bring anyone else to eat, don't expect me to return. I felt a pang of guilt, but I understood the longing of international students for the flavors of home. Nevertheless, I dared not refuse Shin Zaizhou. He was now working remotely, and overall, his remaining abroad seemed beneficial. However, we both feel that we have erred. We always believed that pregnancy required utmost caution and care, yet we never anticipated that the most formidable challenge would arise after the birth. He gazed calmly at the pink infant in the crib and remarked, I never imagined she would be so small. I replied, neither did I. I thought I would deliver an 8-year-old child, all drenched and with blood still clinging to their head, who would emerge calling me mom and asking if they could go out to play. Just as we finished speaking, the baby let out a wail. In that moment, we both saw expressions of terror, panic, and urgency reflected on each other's faces. Fortunately, the maternity nurse came to our rescue. In a humorous aside, it was merely a trick played on us. 1. Everyone noticed a peculiar sight. Shin Zaizhou actually allowed Yinanjia to follow him daily. When he first enrolled, he arrived in a Maybach parked right at the dormitory entrance, instantly causing a sensation. He was undeniably handsome, attracting numerous female admirers. Many pursued him with the hope of success, while some even chased multiple prominent figures to maximize their chances. These were astute students, well aware of the principles of investment return. At that time, Shun Jiazhou found these pursuits utterly detestable. He even summoned bodyguards to disperse them, threatening to toss anyone who dared disturb him into the water. Behind his back, they muttered disdainfully about his arrogance, questioning what made him so special. 2. Yet, this tactic proved effective. No one dared to bother him. He forbade anyone from sitting near him, as he loathed the scent of human presence. Yes, the scent of humanity, which he found utterly repulsive. He resided in the dormitory to avoid returning home, where his mother's incessant nagging drove him to distraction. Regardless of where he stayed, his mother always sought to shower him with her overwhelming maternal affection. Only the dormitory provided him with the peace he craved. Thus, a maid visited daily to clean his space, which was even tidier than the girls' dormitory. 3. Such a person surprisingly did not dismiss the girl by his side. Many lamented, realizing they should not have given up so soon or perhaps attempted to pursue him at a different time, for it turned out he was rather easy to win over. Until Yi Nanjia stopped coming around. A few audacious girls approached him again, attempting to curry favor. He coldly retorted, "Get lost. If you don't, I shall teach you what manners and upbringing truly mean." His gaze was terrifying, deterring anyone from attempting to jest in such an oppressive atmosphere. 4. Shun Jiazhou felt deceived. Initially, he thought that after a period of being pursued by Yi Nanjia, he would reluctantly acquiesce, as he did not find her bothersome or irritating. Besides being a bit dull, her relentless affection for him, as if her very existence depended on it, was rather gratifying. He wondered why he had not noticed her sooner, or allowed her to pursue him earlier, feeling he had squandered over 2 years of university. Each time he listened expressionlessly to her ramblings, he secretly relished the attention. However, having read online advice cautioning against making oneself too easily available when pursued, he rigidly adhered to this rule, determined to make Yi Nanjia perceive him as exceedingly difficult to win over, so that she would cherish him. Yet, this obstinate woman was merely after his mother's wealth. Indeed, his mother's wealth, not a mere insult. 5. He felt bewildered, angry, and infuriated, akin to a naive young woman whose emotions had been toyed with by a scoundrel. He longed for mutual destruction. Yet the other party did not even shed tears or fabricate sorrowful tales of familial illness to deceive him. They didn't even bother to lie. His anger intensified as he felt his pride trampled underfoot, repeatedly crushed by her actions. 6. This would not do. He was a scion of nobility. In this capital city, everyone should cater to him, yielding to his every whim. She must love him. After all, it was she who initiated the pursuit. One must be held accountable for their actions or make amends. Otherwise, he would have her dismembered and preserved in formaldehyde. 7. However, after some time, he matured slightly. He no longer wished for mutual destruction or to turn her into a specimen. He found contentment in being with Yi Nanjia, despite her constant studying. 8. Their relationship advanced rapidly under the moonlit night. He found himself increasingly addicted to her presence. He believed that his way of expressing love was through action. Yet, Yi Nanjia yearned for his endless embraces and affection. Shun Jiazhou, however, lacked the luxury of time. He was perpetually busy, always in haste to depart. 9. They were perpetually missing each other. When one's feelings turned to ashes, the other burned fiercely. He discovered that she had blocked him. It was utterly infuriating. How could she act so? If he had to suffer, she would not have it easy either. He resolved that even in death, he would not let her off the hook. Both were quite particular about their culinary preferences. He was determined to see just how happy she could be. He would cook, and in her presence, toss the food to the dogs, denying her a morsel. 10. She clung to him, weeping as if the heavens were collapsing. A twinge of sorrow stirred within him. His girlfriend truly could not bear to be without him, even if her words often drove him to the brink of exasperation. 11. What could be more vital than securing his girlfriend as heart through her stomach? If there were anything more, it would be to capture their daughter as heart. Epilogue. Shun Yizhen, the little one. 1. When Shun Yizhen first returned to the country, she obediently nestled in her father's embrace, her curious eyes darting about. Her parents were once again embroiled in an argument. Her mother chastised her father for having cut her hair. Indeed, Shun Yizhen once possessed a long, lustrous mane of black hair, quite beautiful. Her father would style it into delightful arrangements. Yet, he insisted that upon returning home, she must prepare for school. With his work commitments, he could not devote endless time to her. Thus short hair was the most practical solution. Shun Yizhen felt indifferent, as she believed her father was always right. She felt closest to him, convinced she had emerged from his very being. Though her mother insisted, she was the one who gave birth to her. 2. Her mother was perpetually busy, leaving her and her father at home. Occasionally, she felt pity for both herself and her father, sensing a lack of maternal affection from her mother. She also believed that both she and her father were unfortunate, especially since her mother could be quite stern, forbidding her from doing this or that. She would scold her father, claiming he could not even care for the child properly. Of course, her father would retort, arguing that not only was her care inadequate, but she hardly paid attention at all. Naturally, their quarrels would be forgotten soon after, as her mother would cling to her father, or he would seek her out, and they would embrace affectionately. These were scenes she had witnessed as a child. They presumed she was oblivious to their dynamics. They even spoke ill of her at times. Her mother would say, "Don't you think she isn't as good-looking as either of us?" Her father would agree, replying, "Honestly, I once doubted whether she was truly my child." This statement earned him a swift reprimand from her mother. 3. Shen Yizhen quickly forgot her childhood memories. She accompanied her mother everywhere. Upon starting kindergarten, her mother would take her out to play or enroll her in extracurricular activities. Sometimes her mother taught older children, and the caretaker would take her to her mother's university to wait for her. Shen Yizhen cherished the moments spent with her mother, always feeling a serene happiness. She would observe the fallen magnolia blossoms, collecting them to present to her mother. Lying in her mother's embrace, listening to her heartbeat and feeling her warmth, she would drift into a gentle slumber. In her heart, she believed that her mother was the one she loved most in the world. One day, she beheld a stranger standing at her doorstep. Startled, she gazed at him in bewilderment, for she was engrossed in molding clay to construct a castle. The stranger scooped her up and showered her with kisses, leaving her face drenched in his saliva. Memories of the cannibal stories her mother had read to her flooded her mind, and she feared he intended to devour her. Overcome with terror, she wept, convinced she would never see her mother again. Her mother dashed out of the house upon seeing the man, and in an instant, she leapt towards them. She found herself caught in the middle, utterly uncomfortable and still crying. Shen Yizhen resolutely resisted being embraced by the stranger, yet her mother reassured her. "Jinjin, he is your father. Have you forgotten your own father?" Then, her mother burst into laughter. The stranger appeared distressed, his gaze lingering on her with affection as he coaxed. "Sweetheart, I am your daddy. I have nurtured you through thick and thin. How could you forget me after just 2 months away on a business trip?" Her fear intensified, and she burrowed deeper into her mother's embrace. Shen Yizhen repeatedly sought confirmation, clutching a photograph of her father to verify the stranger's identity. After confirming that he was indeed her father, her mother treated the incident as a humorous anecdote. Shen Yizhen found herself somewhat perplexed, for this incident underscored her poor memory and the ease with which her father faded from her thoughts. Though once she recalled him, she clung to him affectionately. Nevertheless, this caused her father an ineffable pain, leading her to believe her mother somewhat reveled in sprinkling salt upon their wounds. Fortunately, her father soon ceased to travel frequently for work. Whenever he did venture away, he would take her along, much to her mother's chagrin, as she would insist it would make her ill. Her father promised to provide her with the most comfortable journey. Ultimately, they concluded that divorce was out of the question, for it would incite a fierce battle over her custody, potentially leading to one harming the other. Frequently, she could only watch them in a daze, unable to comprehend their actions. Yet she adored this world. She relished the outings they shared, the beauty of nature, the charm of small animals, and the delicate flowers and grasses. The sounds of her parents' conversations filled her ears, which she cherished. As the sunlight bathed her, she grew at a leisurely pace, with a loving couple always nearby, gazing at her with boundless affection.
The end.
Thank you for listening, and we shall meet again in the next tale.